Welcome back to Rungta IAS Academy, UPSC aspirants. Today's explainer dives into a highly scoring and really critical area for your General Studies Paper 3 syllabus. We're talking about that intricate overlap between infrastructure, energy, and the environment. We are going to unpack the reality of India's electric vehicle transition, but we're moving way beyond the obvious headlines to analyze the actual grid strategy our nation desperately needs. So let's get straight to it. Right, let's kick things off by shattering a pretty widespread myth. You see, voters and policymakers usually experience the EV transition as just electric scooters zipping around their streets, right? Governments even love announcing them as subsidies at rallies. But the reality is quite different. Even if we completely electrify all 309 million two-wheelers in India, that would account for less than 7% of our total projected EV power demand. The political visibility of two-wheelers is actually inversely proportional to their real impact on the grid. Based on Vahan registry data and C-STEP research, the real giant we have to worry about is heavy freight. That demand is rapidly approaching a staggering 500 to 600 terawatt-hours. Exactly, ma'am. And to really grasp the sheer scale of this freight challenge, I'd strongly suggest you jot this figure down for your mains answers. India has approximately 6.26 million heavy goods vehicles, or HGVs. Electrifying these HGVs alone is going to demand anywhere from 450 to 565 terawatt-hours annually. To put that into perspective, remember that a single heavy goods vehicle produces emissions equivalent to roughly 25 passenger cars. So electrifying them is absolutely non-negotiable for our environmental goals. But man, the energy volume required is just monumental. Which brings us to a major roadblock, the Discom dilemma: infrastructure and financial strain. When policymakers talk about electrifying India's roads, what they're actually talking about is electrifying entire supply chains. And that places a massive, largely unbudgeted burden right onto the shoulders of our local distribution companies. And that naturally leads us to a really vital question regarding grid stability. What happens at 7 p.m.? Annual consumption figures really only tell half the story here. Our power grids aren't just stressed by yearly consumption, they are heavily stressed by instantaneous demand. Just imagine millions of commercial vehicles plugging in to charge exactly during the evening peak hours. Modeling suggests this could add loads of several hundred gigawatts all at once. Without proper management, we are risking severe grid instability, supply disruptions, and sudden tariff spikes that will hit ordinary consumers, not just EV owners. So the crucial question is, how do we actually manage all this stress? Well, the tools do exist. Time of use pricing, which is a tariff structure where electricity prices vary depending on the time of day to encourage charging during off-peak hours, is absolutely essential. We also critically need daytime workplace charging to utilize solar hours alongside large battery storage hubs. Now, while a few states have introduced early EV tariff frameworks, we are still missing a cohesive national standard. Right now, chargers are being installed across the country that literally cannot respond to grid signals. That means every dumb charger installed today is going to become a massive retrofit cost tomorrow. Absolutely. And to power this massive freight load without completely destabilizing our grid, we have to look very closely at our energy mix options. Solar and wind are great. They offer fast, scalable deployment, but they are intermittent. Nuclear power, including those new micromodular reactors, provides that firm, weather-independent baseload we desperately need for major highway corridors. But aspirants, listen carefully and take note of this. Expanded coal is to be strictly avoided. If our future EVs are running on coal-powered grids, India is merely replacing its oil dependence on the Gulf with a coal dependence on Australia and Indonesia. That completely breaks the logic of a clean electrification transition. And the current situation perfectly illustrates the policy gap we're facing. We need coordinated, decisive action rather than various departments working in silos. So let's look at the specific steps the government must prioritize to build a sustainable grid. Students, mark these points heavily for your mains examination. These are 4 high-density, actionable policy steps. First up, the draft National Electricity Policy must proactively model EV load capacity for 2047, mapping out 30, 50, and 100% scenarios. Second, we need urgent joint power mapping from major arteries, specifically the Golden Quadrilateral and our dedicated freight corridors. Third, establishing an interministerial mechanism that bridges transport, power, and finance is just mandatory, so our planning isn't isolated. And finally, we have to strengthen the revamped distribution sector scheme, the RDSS, with strict EV readiness benchmarks to actually support our discoms. Spot on, sir. And furthermore, a truly excellent analytical answer for GS3 absolutely must include the environmental conservation aspect. We have to consider the downstream dimension. We are talking about hundreds of millions of EV batteries eventually reaching their end of life. Currently, India just does not have recycling infrastructure at anywhere near the required scale. If we don't scale this up simultaneously with our EV rollout, we risk triggering a massive new waste crisis right as we attempt to solve an energy one. To wrap up our explainer today, let's frame this final thought, which honestly serves as a highly probable UPSC interview prompt. The commuter in Patna choosing an electric scooter today is absolutely making the right call. The ambition is there across the country, and this transition is definitely inevitable. But the real question is our national grid planning actually keeping pace with this ambition? Your role as India's future administrators will be to build the grid that makes this transition truly sustainable. Thank you so much for joining us at Rungta IAS Academy today. Keep studying smart, and we'll see you in the next analysis.